All right, so we should have audio this time, guys. I had to restart. So, welcome back to Boss Uncaged Academy. Today's topic at hand is big data, and big data is something that's been around for like the longest period of time, and people hear about it, but they don't really know how to use it. Hence, why the title of this is "How to Use Big Data in Small Business." And it's not necessarily general information, it's like targeted information. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about Answer the Republic, and I'm going to talk about Topic Mojo. Topic Mojo is a new platform that I just got access to in like the last week or so from a friend of mine. His name's Carlos, and he is part of a Facebook group called I remember the name of it off the top of my head, the Pale Society. So through marketers, we want to leverage information that's valuable information. We just don't want to have information that's going to be off the top of our heads. So doing due diligence, doing research is where that information comes from, and is really based upon the viewing public. Part of the launch, I think it was a 5 or 6 week launch strategy that we went over last month. I think lessons one, lessons two, we were just talking about doing research. And part of that we was talking about Google, we was talking about Google Trends, talking about all these different platforms to leverage to get access to content to make sure that it's the right content to put in front of your target audience. So Answer the Public was one of those platforms. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and kind of just talk about like how did I come to utilizing big data to create the content that I'm putting in front of you guys. And then the takeaway at the end of this video is going to be like, what can you use this big data for your business, or how do you leverage it to create your content? So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Give me a second. So I'm sharing my screen right now. So on my screen right now, you can kind of see this is Answer the Public. There's always like a video playing in the background. First thing I'm going to do is drop down this menu. I'm going to pick United States, and then I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to type in big data. Now, Answer the Public is a paid platform. They give you, I think, maybe 5 searches per 24 hours, or some 3 searches per 24 hours, whatever it may be. And after that, it's pay to play, and it's like $100 per month. So in this platform, big data is what I've typed in and I'm searching it, and it comes up with like the who, the what, the where, the which, the why, the will, the when, and it does it in a really cool like mind mapping chart to kind of figure out. Obviously darker greens are higher priority. That means more people are searching for that. So if I'm looking at where big data is used, right? So if I wanted to create a blog post, I would probably create a blog post about that, right? Or if I wanted to create a podcast episode, I'll create a podcast episode about that. If I wanted to create any additional content, then I would probably piecemeal a couple of these questions together, like how? Well, how to use big data, right? Sounds familiar to this video right now. In addition to that, it's like where to use big data. Then part of that is like, can you as a business owner use big data? And again, I'm just going to look at these to make sure what I'm thinking about creating the content works with this information. So this is a hell of a source to have at your fingertips to get access to all this content before you even decide to create content. So there's a comparison, there's questions, alphabetical, and then there's also related. And this is all that Answer Republic does. Now, this other platform, which is a lifetime deal, again, you guys know I love lifetime deals. It's a new platform that came out, and I think it's like $50. Again, 10 times, a million times cheaper than Answer Republic at being $100 per month. Um, then you have question finder, you have topic model, and you have searching. And searching is something that they're working on, and it also has courses built into it as well too. So if you want more information about how to use the platform, that's what I like about these new style of lifetime deals. Built into these platforms, there's information about how to use it, how to leverage it. So comparing themselves to Answer the Public right there. So it's like a step-by-step video, like the pros and cons between both platforms. Modeling keyword ideas, review and more comparisons, live topic research examples. So all the information, I'm just going to give you general top views and why you should use it, and quickly how to use it. And then if you decide to get on this platform, you can ask me more questions about it. We can dive in more detail, or you can definitely go through all this different content that they have on this platform as well. So just dive into the power of this application. Like this is the part that's sexy, and why I want to show you guys this. So the topic model, much like Answer the Republic, it'll give you the charts and everything else. But differently than Answer the Republic, it tells you exactly where these sources are coming from, right? So, for example, Brian with your beer group, right? Tal with her body painting, or um, Kathy with her VA business, you could come in here and you can type in a particular keyword, and then you can kind of generally from top view before you even click into anything, kind of see where this content is coming from, right? So Instagram has some information, Pinterest has some information. So it's like, okay, cool. So there's not just one source, right? There's multiple sources, and it's telling you exactly where these sources are. So then I'm going to click on big data just for this example because we're talking about big data. And this is where this platform really gets elegant and really starts to shine. Right away, right off bat, you get general stats. Now, not everyone is analytically inclined or like to see big data, but the data is where the results are going to come from. So figuring out like if this keyword or if this topic that you want to build content, or again, if you're talking about beer, for Brian, you may be talking about stout versus sours. Well, this is a good way to figure out which one to swing with, right? Again, what's the search volume? What's the search volume for stouts? What's the search volume for sours? For towel, it's kind of like, okay, well, what's the search volume for a particular type of paint, or what's the search volume for a particular type of body event, or balloons, or any of that information? Again, you can go to Google and you can search for it. You can go to any SEO platform like SEM Rush and type that in there. You could also go to Answer the Republic and type it in there, but there's so many fragmented pieces, it becomes a task to kind of farm them and pull them all together. This environment kind of gives you a top level view and a deeper dive view all in one portal. So right away, part of what I'm always looking for search volume is somewhere in like the million or 100,000 plus continuously, right? So if this was like 10,000, 5,000, this would not be a good platform for me to create this content on big data. So just giving you the insight of the way to process this on the top level view, the trends on the left, look at it much like stock, right? So if this was the Apple stock back in the 90s, it was low. In the early 2000s, it was starting to peak, once Steve got back in there, and oh my God, here comes the iPhone, right? And then after the iPhone, maybe it dies down, comes back up, but it has leveled off 5 times where it originally started. So for me, looking at this from a stock point of view, this is a decent trend. It's trending sideways. It's not necessarily trending up right now. Obviously, if we had caught this trend right here, it would have been a great time to ride that bandwagon because it looks more like a bull market, right? Right here, it's not necessarily a bull, or it's not necessarily going downhill. It's just going across. But again, it's 5 times higher than what it was. So it's a solid trend to put a foot forward. So think about this from your business. If I were to type in virtual assistant in here, where would it trend? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Right? To kind of know if you're in that right space. And then also, in addition to that, in that niche, are you targeting the right individuals? And then looking at the general search volume. Well, obviously there's 100,000 across the board. So if I put content out there about big data, then I should get some feedback. I should get some traffic. I should get some kind of conversion, right? So think about it from that standpoint. So that's the first part. In addition to it, you can see all this information up here, right? So if I click, I'll just scroll down and show it to you, right? So there's all the phrases, the shopping, the research, and it tells you the exact numbers. So if I'm looking at videos, what is big data, right? Goes right back to those questions, right? And then it has all these tutorials about big data. So right from here, I could definitely click on the video, and then the video will play right here and there. And that by itself is worth the $50 because now I don't have to go to YouTube. I don't have to go to YouTube to search for that keyword. It's all in this one platform. In addition to that, I'm gonna scroll down. Then I'm in Twitter. Well, again, I'm in Twitter. Now I don't have to go to Twitter to search for, is this topic trending in Twitter? And that I can see all the information about what's happening on Twitter about big data right here from this one platform. If I scroll down, then it kind of breaks out. Now these locks, obviously, anytime you get a lifetime deal, there's always an upsell somewhere, right? So to get access to the cost per click, to get access to the volume, is it difficult or hard to win that keyword if you decide to do like ads or Google ads? That's additional cost. But right away, right off bat, I mean, I could look at that hyper and say, okay, this is 100%. This is a really big word. This is high search volume, and then the breakouts. All this information is very relative. Again, if you're going to create content, or if you want to figure out if you're in the right business, or if you're targeting the right audience. And then the region to me is golden because now I can kind of see, okay, you know what? For big data right now, if I wanted to create content and if I wanted to talk on stage somewhere, well, obviously New York is a place for me to do it, right? Boston, place for me to do it. So from just by looking at these top 6, It's the Northeast is the region to where this content is holding the most value right now, right? So that's the first thing. And this again, only thing I did was type in big data and tell it to search. So then if I want to dive even deeper into it, then I can kind of click on, okay, what's going on Instagram? Well, these are all the posts on Instagram about big data. If I click on Pinterest, these are all the posts on Pinterest about big data. Even Shopify, which is crazy, the fact that there's big data relative content on Shopify. It's only 4 posts, but it's probably a blog or whatever else. Etsy, the same exact thing. So it doesn't matter what business that you're in. It just matters that, okay, there's content across multiple different platforms on multiple different facets, and then how to leverage this content through the big data. In addition to it, like these first 3 buttons, the tree button is much like what you saw on Answer the Republic. And it makes it actually easier to read because Answer the Republic kind of, you have to tilt your head and look for it. But right here, it's very linear, right? What big data is, which big data certification is best. And again, it clearly gives you the content that you need to utilize to create for your target audience. So as you're scrolling down, you kind of see there's way more questions, right? And they're all organized exactly the same. So how to use this, right? So if I'm going to create, let's say, a book, well, I could easily come into this and take one question from each one of these sections, and those could be my chapter topics. And the only thing I'll have to do after that is fill in the blanks or get a ghostwriter or record video. That's one use for it. Another use for this is if I'm looking at this content and I want to create a YouTube video. Well, I have unlimited YouTube videos now. I don't have to think about what content to create for. I just have to figure out which question I want to answer. If I want to do a blog post, same exact thing. I will just come in here, scroll down, figure out, okay, why is big data bad? Right? So now I have this content, I have this question, then I can fill in the blanks, fill in the question, and get that information out to my viewing audience. Next to that is grouping. So the grouping is something similar to what Answer the Republic has, but it makes it again very clean so you can kind of figure out a which, why, how, where. And again, anytime you're creating content, the content essentially is going to answer a question. That's like the best way to create the content or to depict or tell a story or to just, clearly tell your story. So where am I going? How am I doing? What am I doing? Right? Is much similar to you're talking to your target audience. Is like how to do this, where to get access to this, step by step on which ways to go. So again, you don't have to think about it. All you have to do is type in a keyword, come in here and see which one resonates with you most. So I love this platform just for the top level view on that. So then if I want to dive into like the questions, I mean the phrases, but then I can kind of literally go into the question finder. And there's there's the model, and the model gives you all the information that I showed you guys, like all the analytical data, all the stats, all the sources, and questions just gives you exactly what the title is. It just gives you the direct question so you can kind of figure out if you need to do less research, right? So in here is 100% questions. It's not all the data. So there's 2 sides to this, right? There's the model that gives you all the data that may be overwhelming, or if you just want to focus on the questions, then you can just type in that keyword and check out the basic data at the top and then figure out the question. So whether it's Google or Reddit, again, this particular video came from these questions. So I came in here and I typed in how. Then I started reading these, right? Then I came in here and I typed in useful. Looks very familiar to the title that you guys are seeing on Facebook right now, right? How useful is big data? Again, I didn't have to think about it. All I had to do was look at it and read it and say, okay, that makes perfect sense. And then I typed in business. Okay, what information do they have on business? Well, what is big data used for business? I put those 2 titles together and I created the title for that. And then I took the title and I showed you guys this video before. It's like, okay, how do I make sure this title is like a particular point system? And I need algorithms to verify that for me. Again, you don't have to process it. You don't want to do all this work yourself because again, it will bog you down. You want to have these systems in place to put this content in there to leverage them. So I took that title, how useful is big data in small business, and learned how to use it. I ran that through Headliner, which I showed you guys. I think that was probably week. I don't remember at this point. I got so much information in my head, but I showed you guys this before. So Headliner then verifies like that title. Does it work? So I'm at an 81, and I told you guys originally 70 or plus is good for this environment, but then it's useful as a keyword, big is another keyword, and everything else is where it needs to be as far as the common words. and I'm looking at it's a how-to, right? It's a how-to question. The clarity, it's positive, and it scored at 81. So that's how I knew that, okay, this is a good title. So if I take this video and I put this video on YouTube, I'm going to use that title. Then I'm going to verify like some additional keywords. Again, there's tools to verify additional keywords. Again, you don't have to think about it. And I can even use this tool to figure out additional keywords based upon the questions, right? And then I'll put all that information out there, create this YouTube video, post this YouTube video. And if I wanted to monetize it, then I would put a link to the product. That's how I would use this content to create a new video to then leverage that video to monetize it. So an example of this would be for a different brand. Let me go to something else than big data. I think I may have some content in here. Maybe podcasts. Just give it a second to process. So obviously podcasts are trending up, right? Well, generally trending up way more than where they were before. The volume is definitely higher than big data. There's a lot of videos on it. And again, these videos, I think, not necessarily how-to videos, they're probably more so podcast episodes. And I'm just going to skim through it. Give it a second for those tweets to load. Taking a while for that to load. Then I'm looking at, okay, Joe Rogan, that makes sense. Best podcast, that makes sense. Region wise, I would think pretty much all the states are pretty equal to a certain extent. The related topics, podcast is podcast. Okay, that's okay. Then I'm just going to click into Shopify to see maybe what products they may or may not have. The Book Girl. So I'm just going to look at that, see that pop up in a new window and see what's going on with that. And again, this is just, I'm just bringing you guys inside my mind to like how I'm leveraging this content to figure out if I'm going to use it or create something from it. So this sends me to a landing page for her particular episode. I'm not sure how this is associated to Shopify, or is that Spotify? Let me see if I read it right. It's Shopify. So I'm looking to see like products just to kind of see maybe they may have t-shirts, maybe they may have hats. And you can see there's a lot of different podcasts. So it looks like they may have Shopify integrated into those platforms. So again, I would probably click on like maybe 5 to 10 of these to kind of see where do they go, what are they pulling up. Then I'm gonna look at Etsy. And again, I'm just doing this from the product standpoint, just to kind of see what products maybe we can kind of create. So this is Rodecaster Pro, Rodecaster Pro, Rodecaster Pro. And so I'm starting to say, okay, there's 3 Rodecaster Pros, right? And I have a Rodecaster Pro at home. So I know what this is. This is a hardware tool that we utilize to record content. So at this point in time, this is my split in the road because I'm seeing this Rodecaster Pro so many different times. I'm like, okay, like what's going on with it? Like there's high searches on Etsy. So what I'm gonna do is then I'm gonna go back to the model, and I'm just gonna do a live example of putting Rodecaster Pro in there. And again, this is like part of the rabbit hole you go down, but now I know that I'm talking to podcasters and I'm talking to podcasters about a particular product. So I'm gonna have it search, and I don't know how long it's gonna take because I think it takes like maybe 30 seconds for it to really start to propagate this general information, right? So while that's doing that, just for to kill some time, I'm gonna go to Answer the Republic and I'm gonna type in Rodecaster Pro in there. That is one drawback to that platform. It takes longer than Answer the Public does to generate content. But once the content comes in, all right, so this is the problem right here. So if you've hit the maximum number for free searches today, which obviously is BS, right? I mean, I think I've only searched 2 or 3 times today, so this becomes an issue. So let me go back to this platform. Still loading. Still loading. All right, I'm just gonna go back to podcast while that loads. I'm gonna go to grouping, and then I'm just gonna look for general information. What podcasts? Why podcasts? So, which podcast to listen to? So I would take this and put that as one of my topics. Then I would take. I'm just reading them. What podcast? What can podcast be about? This is another good topic. What can podcasts be about? So again, if I'm going to create any content about podcasting, then I would take this and then I would just record maybe a 30-second intro video to talk about that topic, a 30-second intro to talk about this topic. And then the collective of these 5 different things, maybe I have a short 5-minute video. Or if I want to make them even longer, then I can do a 10-minute per video to stretch out that content. And again, there's so many different aspects to figuring out what content you want to use. I think the issue at hand is not becoming overwhelmed. It's to stay on one thing. So if you come in here and you're just looking for questions to answer those questions to create that content, then look for that. If you're looking for video, then come in here and look see what videos are there. And until you can kind of get used to having all this information, again, it's called big data for a reason, having all access to all this content in front of you at your fingertips, you just kind of want to build up to it. But once you get used to having access to all this content and it does not become overwhelming because you know what you're looking for and how you're going to use it, then it becomes 10 times easier for you to infiltrate and create that content for your user audience. So the goal of this video is that I want you guys, if you don't have access to Topic Mojo, that's fine. You can definitely use Answer Republic, but keep in mind that I think there's only 3 searches based upon what just happened. So start putting in your keywords. So if it's beer, put beer in there. If it's art, put art in there. If it's virtual assistant, put virtual assistant in there and see what comes up, right? And then see the information that you may want to utilize based upon what people are searching for, not based upon what you think. Because when we think about what we think, then we're blocking the reality of what the real world is searching for. So I'm looking at this and I'm looking at this content and I'm saying, okay, why podcast for education? Well, obviously I'm an educator and I'm educating people through podcasts. So then I can definitely go into this, do some more due diligence, maybe look up to see if there's any more additional content for it, or I can just give my viewpoint on that answer to that question, and it'll be valuable to the target audience because again, people are searching for that key term. So hopefully this is helpful on, again, there's so many different things you can do with big data. There's so many different variables and so much different things that you can create just by having access to this. And again, I think most people, they don't access big data. Most people don't even know where to access big data. Most people don't even know what to do with big data. So this video, my goal is to kind of show you guys big data is not as a big of a monster as you may think it is. It's pretty simple. The only thing you have to do is start with your general keyword, put that keyword in there, figure out what people are looking for, and then figure out how do you fill in that void by answering that question. That's really the basics of how to leverage big data. If you got any other additional questions, feel free to make a comment. I'll put a link to the Topic Mojo in there. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask it on it. I'll go ahead and answer it. And hopefully, I think this time the audio is definitely coming through. I had to restart my machine. I guess it's been running for too long. So my audio was showing up, but wasn't playing through Facebook. Go figure. Again, I appreciate you guys. SA Grant, over and out.